It's time to forget about that traditional hot toddy cocktail, especially in summer. This right here is a cold toddy. Let me show you how to make it. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd, and like I said, this week I'm making a cold toddy whiskey cocktail. Now if you're ever feeling a bit sick, you got a bit of a flu, like you got a head cold, traditionally one of those kind of classic old wives' tale recipes is a hot toddy whiskey cocktail, which is essentially whiskey with a bit of sugar, with a bit of lemon juice and some hot water, because it clears up your sinuses, makes you feel a little bit better, and it's generally one of those things that people say to have. It's probably not actually good for you, it's probably not actually helping you out, but does help you feel a little bit better. But I was recently feeling a little bit sick, a little bit stuffed up in my nose, and it's summer here in Ireland, so it's really hot, so I didn't feel like having a hot cocktail. I didn't feel like having a lot of boiling water there. So I said I'm gonna make a cold toddy. I wanted to make something that was a little bit sweet, a little bit kind of like lemony and citrusy, same thing as that hot toddy cocktail, but just cold. And I did a little bit of research online, and some people have some ideas for it, but no one seems to have a definitive hot toddy recipe. So I did a little bit of experimenting, and it came up what I think is a very nice little cocktail. For my ingredients for the cold toddy cocktail, I've got this here as my whiskey. This is the Glenallachie 12-year-old Scotch Whisky. It's a single malt whiskey. It's got a lot of nice flavour to it. If you want to see a review of this, I'll put a link up there and a link down below. I did a review of that earlier on this week, and it's a very nice whiskey. It's got a lot of cask flavour coming through it. It's got a lot of sherry finish, and it does come in at 46% ABV, so it has a nice weight of flavour that does carry through into a cocktail. I've also got a little bit of lemon juice, and this here, right here. This is a sugar syrup, but I didn't just make it with plain old sugar. I actually made some Earl Grey tea, and Earl Grey tea it's nice. It's kind of herbal. It's like it's made with bergamot oil, so they make the tea, they put a little bergamot oil in it, and that helps flavor it and give it this kind of like almost breakfasty vibe. I also added, when I was making the sugar syrup, I added a little bit of cinnamon and some cloves to it, and I'll put a recipe to that down below. You can check that out, but it's very nice. It gives you that sweetness while also giving it a little bit of tea, because sometimes people will have a hot toddy with like a tea bag put into it, and sometimes people will just have a hot toddy with hot water and lemon juice. And speaking of that water, because with the hot toddy, typically you don't want to just have a shot of whiskey with a bit of lemon juice and a bit of sugar. You want to lengthen it out. So I will be adding, this is just plain cold water, had it in the fridge for a little while, so it is nice and cold, so that when we make the cocktail, when we dilute it down and stir it with a bit of ice, it will be lengthened out, and it's not going to be just like an old-fashioned, like really strong whiskey up front. So that's enough talking about the cocktail. I think it's time we make it. I'm going to stir it down. You can serve it over ice, you can serve it the way you want, but I'm going to be stirring it in a mixing glass with a nice rock of ice in there. So let's measure out our ingredients, starting off with our Scotch whiskey. You don't have to use this whiskey right here. You can use whichever one you want. This is just very nice whiskey. Like I said, it's got a nice bit of flavour and does have that malty character that comes through nicely into the finished product, but you can use whatever whiskey you want. That there was 1.5 ounces or 45 ml. Next up, we're going to go in with our Earl Grey tea sugar syrup. It is quite nice, a little bit of spiciness to it, a little bit of brown sugar flavour, and just nice, not overpowering the flavours of the cocktail, just giving a nice bit of roundness. So we're going to go in with 20 ml of this syrup, just like that, into there. And then we're going to go in with 10 ml of our lemons. Now I'm going in, of lemon juice, freshly squeezed lemon juice, going in with 10 ml of this just because when you have a hot cocktail, you add a slice of lemon to it, it does bring out a lot of that flavour, and I wanted that flavour to come through. So only about 10 ml, you can go in with 5 or 15 depending on what you like, but I think 10 ml is that kind of magic number just to give you a nice bit of flavour into the cocktail. And lastly, you're going to go in with 25 ml of our plain old cold water. When we dilute this, when we stir it down, it will give us a nice bit of length, but it'll just make sure it's not just like a really, really whiskey forward, spirit forward cocktail. So that's all of our ingredients. We're going to stir it for about 30 seconds, 35 seconds, get everything nice and cold. Okay, I think that is nicely chilled and it tastes really nice. So we're going to get ready to strain it out into a chilled glass. Like I said, if you want, you can serve this on ice to keep it really, really cold, but I kind of like that presentation just in a nice glass, just like that. So I'm just going to strain it out. Oh yes, just like that. But for a garnish, we are going to go back with that traditional kind of slice of lemon. So we're just going to perch a little lemon slice just on the top like that. And that right there is how I make a cold toddy. Now real quick, before I taste this cocktail, if you're new here, scroll down, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews like the review of that Glenallachie 12 every week, and I put out cocktail recipes featuring whiskey like this one right here every week. So if you want to see those, make sure you hit subscribe. But right now, let's taste this cocktail. That is really nice. I'm glad I played around with the recipe on this because it gives you a nice amount of flavor. Like you get that whiskey flavor come up front, you get that bit of citrus coming through like you would with that hot toddy, but it's not a hot drink. It is quite nice in flavor. Like the bit of water, that 25 ml of water in there gives you a nice bit of length. It means that you're not getting like that big hit of spirit up front, but because we chose a nice whiskey coming in at 46%, like you get that nice bit of weight, you get that character coming through into the final kind of sip of the cocktail. The Earl Grey tea syrup, it doesn't dominate, it just gives a nice bit of like spiciness, because this whiskey does have a nice bit of like flavor and a bit of cinnamon, bit of nutmeg, bit of ginger coming through. And so that cinnamon spice with that Earl Grey tea, with that brown sugar, gives you a really, really nice flavoring cocktail. So I think I'm definitely going to keep on enjoying this. Even though I'm no longer sick, it's still a very nice cocktail. And I will see you next time. Sláinte.